Michael Lerner. I had the pleasure of getting to know him a bit. He took, I don't know, Michael, if you remember, was it ITT with me, I think, in the 80s probably. He's the co-founder of Commonweal in Bolinas, California. That's his main work, working with the Cancer Help Program, Healing Circles, Beyond Conventional Cancer Therapies, the Collaborative on Health and the Environment, and the New School at Commonweal. I don't know if that's the new school that's in New York. Is it associated with that same school? It's right near us, like across the street from us in Greenwich Village. It's not the same? No, okay. Michael's the recipient of the MacArthur Prize Fellowship. That's a very big award for his contributions to public health. He received that in 1983. What's that, 42 years ago. He's the author of Choices in Healing, Integrating the Best of Conventional and Complementary Therapies, printed by MIT Press. He's a longtime student of Swami Satchidananda, Sri Gurudev. And Mike is going to share his wisdom tonight with us, and also on Vimeo streaming. Let's welcome Michael.
Thank you, Swamiji. Can you hear me?
Yes. Very well.
Is my voice coming through?
Yes.
Very well, Michael. We hear you really well.
Okay, wonderful. Swamiji, thank you for that kind introduction. I'm sorry I can't be with you in person. And also, I'm a little under the weather this afternoon with a cough and a bit of a cold or something. So please forgive me if I break up from time to sneeze or blow my nose. But it's not inappropriate to be a little under the weather because my topic is healing and integral yoga. So I get to actually practice this, and I actually told Chandra and the tech team that I might not be able to do it, but I really wanted to be with you, and so here I am. So I have 30 minutes with you. It started at 5:20 my time, and I'll be very precise about that. I really feel that integral yoga saved my life. My friend and colleague, Dean Ornish, who has done Nobel Prize-worthy work on reversing coronary artery disease and also working with prostate cancer and aging with a integral yoga framework, also believes that integral yoga saved his life. And I'm sure that that is not uncommon, that there are many of us who found at whatever point we discovered integral yoga that it has life-saving capacities. I'm going to say just a little bit about defining healing, which will be very rudimentary for some of you, but not everybody has really thought about healing. So basic definition of healing, as I use the word, is that healing is different from curing, that a cure is when a medical treatment takes away a disease and it never comes back. Healing is a movement toward wholeness. It can happen physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. It can take place at any point during the life cycle or the disease cycle. We can heal as we lose ground physically. We can absolutely heal in the dying process. So it's a movement toward wholeness. And one other core thing about it is that while the great paths to healing are well known, so for example, the way Ornish describes it is diet, exercise, deep relaxation, and finding love and support. There are other ways to break it up, but the point is that there are these core broad practices, but usually the most powerful healing takes place in what William Blake called unique particulars. He said, if you would help another person, you must do so in unique particulars. And that is certainly my experience in the Cancer Help Program. The Cancer Help Program is in large part based on edible yoga. We've done 225 week-long retreats over the past 40 years. I've been with almost all of them, except a few that I missed with health issues. But usually the work that people come to do is not about the cancer itself. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it is about some core struggle in their lives that is innately and immensely painful to them and that they don't see a way out of. And therefore, the effort to simply listen to them and to see if we can help them find the answer within themselves that wants to emerge. That's the core work. And trusting, this is part of our methodology and our Healing Circles global work, which came out of the Cancer Health Program. Trusting that we do have the wisdom within us to find what we are seeking. What Swamiji called the guru in you. And so that's a really critical point, because I'm always deeply tempted to advise people. It's a temptation that hasn't gone away over time. But Jerry Jampolsky, who was the founder of the Centers for Attitudinal Healing, who was very near us in Tiburon, and he came to see me in his early 90s after we'd worked in parallel for 40 years. And I said to him, Jerry, you know, we've both been doing this work for 40 years. I can't help, I know I should just listen, but I can't help wanting to advise people. How do you do it? And here this distinguished older man listened thoughtfully, he was almost blind. And then he said to me, Michael, how could I possibly know what is best for another human being? Michael, how could I possibly know what is best for another human being? So there's a profound wisdom in that. So it's not just the great paths of hatha yoga, pranayama, chanting, meditation, all the rest. It is allowing a person to be heard and to address the unique particulars of their struggle at that moment in time. Another way to approach that for people is to ask them a critical question, which is, what matters now? What matters now in your life? And that often helps people get toward those critical questions. So I want to, excuse me, I want to go directly to my favorite sutra of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which I think is the first sutra in the second book, and I won't try to butcher the Hindu, but my adaptation of Swamiji's translation of it, which I love, it's the sutra about tapas, is, I think the translation he gives is the acceptance, and I'm working from memory, the acceptance of our suffering as an aid to purification, the study of great wisdom teachings, and complete surrender to the divine force within us. These three things are yoga in practice. Now notice he doesn't say hatha, pranayama, meditation, chanting. He says the acceptance of our suffering as an aid, I would say, to our personal evolution or spiritual growth. The study of great wisdom teachings, and I would say wherever we find them, and complete surrender to that divine force which is in each of us, no matter how deeply buried. Those three things are yoga in practice. So I regard that sutra as essentially fundamental in my life for the last 44 years. I just find that, in a kind of a way, people put it frequently is they call it an AFGO, which is another freaking growth opportunity or another freaking opportunity for growth. AFOG. I use AFOG. But life presents us, unless we are deeply enlightened, or at least enlightened beyond my pay grade, because I'm a radically imperfect human being. So I don't pretend to any enlightenment whatsoever. But my experience is that far from having obtained the peace that Swamiji talks about when he talks about a life of dedication as the path to inner peace, maybe so. And I certainly find peace when I'm working. That is very true, that when I'm working, and I'm working most of the time, I do find peace. But when I'm not working, and when I'm confronting just the emotional, mental, and spiritual dimensions of being a radically imperfect human being, which is what I describe myself as, I'm dealing with all the pain and suffering of attachments. And obviously, attachments are most often to the people we love and the struggles we go through with the people we love. So, so I just find that sutra, to accept, to embrace our suffering, and to know that if we do embrace it, it actually authentically works to move us forward. And then to rely on great wisdom wherever we find it. And finally, to trust that we do have that divine spark within each of us. Those three things are yoga and practice. So I mentioned we've done the Cancer Help Program for 40 years this year, over 225 week-long retreats. And, you know, they completely transform people. We only take 8 people at a time. And virtually every single retreat, almost everybody leaves having had a profound experience. Now, whether that profound experience lasts or whether it's passing, you know, when you go on a yoga retreat, you can leave with a great feeling of peace and transformation, and then a week or 2 weeks or a month later, you're back in, you know, whatever reality you were in with before, or maybe you've made a little progress, but I think most of us know that experience. So it's the same in the Cancer Help Program. But there are many people, and here's the point, there are many people who actually do transform, and the reason is the deep trauma of a cancer diagnosis and cancer treatment. And one of the realities, and here I'm going to refer you, those of you who like to think, and not everybody likes to think, that's not a critique, but the mental path, the Jnana Yoga path is not the path for everybody. There is a student of consciousness named Jeffrey J. Kripal, Kripal, who's a professor of religious studies and philosophy at Rice University. I'm doing 14 recorded 90-minute conversations with him on his 13 books. He is, in my mind, the true successor of William James, the greatest American philosopher, psychologist of the 19th century, in that he has taken very seriously the presumption of yoga and Patanjali that there really is another world, that there is a world beyond the physical world, that the materialist world, which is all conventional science accepts as true, that there really is, Kripal speaks of the human being as two, not one, but two. And the old traditions taught that. Not all of them, but most of them taught that we are two, not one. And so I refer you to his work because I was looking back over the siddhis, Siddhis, in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Kripal believes that most of those siddhis are actually true. You know, let's start with the most obvious one, the survival of the soul in death. to me, that one is very clearly true, at least for some people. There's a professor retiring now near you at the University of Virginia, Jim B. Tucker, who took over the work of Ian Stevenson. And they did this extraordinary piece of work on children who remember past lives. And they have a database with over 3,000 of these kids with this completely impeccable methodology where most of these kids are in Asia, where they believe in reincarnation. They find a kid who talks about a past life. He usually starts talking about it at 3 or so and stops talking about it at 7 or 10 because the present life begins to crowd it out. But he remembers vividly a past life. And he talks about it. Well, sometimes the parents go looking for the previous life parents, and sometimes they find them. So in those cases, Stevenson and Tucker sent out teams to interview the two. And anybody who reads that set of books, I believe that without a doubt, it demonstrates that whether you call it reincarnation or they more carefully simply say children who remember past lives, it's real. It's real. So if that's real, what about all the other psi phenomena, PSI phenomena? What about what are called anomalous phenomena? What about intuition? What about telepathy? What about clairvoyance? What about clairaudience? What about remote viewing? What about the power of prayer? You know, these things are real, but they operate according to different rules. And so Kripal's description of them in his 13 books is extraordinarily nuanced. He doesn't in any way give up in the materialist description of the world. What he embraces is what's broadly called panpsychism, which is the belief that consciousness is ubiquitous in the universe as opposed to being simply an excrudescence of the evolution of the material human brain, which is what, you know, the scientists believe now, that all the rest of it is just hooey. But it's not so. And so the thing about panpsychism is that there are some variants, like the Neoplatonic ones, which privilege consciousness and say the material world is a vibrational step down from consciousness. And there are others, the one he likes is called dual aspect monism, in which he suggests that the material world and the consciousness world arrive from a single substrate. But we were neurologically designed for survival, not to see reality. And therefore, we separate them. And we only come into an understanding and vision of them when either we're subjected to great trauma or we practice extremely deep meditation, or sometimes with psychedelics. And some people are born with or acquire through other means access to these other intelligences and states. So I simply mentioned Kripal. You won't find that he's any kind of carbon copy of integral yoga. But if you hold your integral yoga deeply, which I do, you shouldn't be disturbed by his fairly negative view of religions. While for my part, I like to see the exoteric version of religion as the shell, and the esoteric inner mystical vision as the true light. And I believe they tend to be, as Swamiji said, you know, many paths to a core truth. So I've got about 13 minutes left with you. And I think what I'll go to here is to say, you know, it's not only integral yoga. I mean, truth is one, paths are many, but there are many other ways of doing it. Tai Chi, Qigong. I think what tend to do it, get us to this inner experience, is the embodied psychospiritual methods, which require gifted leadership, gifted staff, a belief on the part of the participants that the method will help them, and good design. I think those are the 4 criteria for good retreat work in a psychophysiological discipline. Now, I'll just move briefly, and again, this is very familiar to most of you, but I'll say it, that the Gita and the Yoga Sutras, both of which Swamiji translated, are very clear about what the great yogas are. The Gita, obviously, Bhakti, Jnana, and Karma Yoga, Bhakti being the yoga of the heart, which is the yoga of love, but I prefer to say with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the yoga of kindness. He said, kindness is my religion, no need for fancy theories. My heart and my mind are my temples. My friend Christina Baldwin says, kindness is love with its work boots on. And Cornel West says, justice is what love looks like in the public sphere. Justice is what love looks like in the public sphere. So whether you call it kindness, whether you call it love, love has much ambiguity to it. But kindness, we all know what kindness is. And so kindness is love with its work boots on. So the bhakti approach is of love expressed wisely as kindness. Then there's karma yoga, which is the yoga of the hands, the dedication of service. That's a large part of my own yoga. I'm not as good at bhakti yoga as I am a karma yogi. And my third yoga, the third yoga of the Gita, is the yoga of wisdom. And that yoga, the Gita warns us, is the most complicated, and it's the easiest to get lost in. But for my sins, that is the one that that has drawn me most powerfully. I am a student of consciousness. I am a student of wisdom. I believe that we cannot arrive at any final understanding of either one, but we can continue to explore them. And I do believe that we are right on the cusp. And the Wikipedia entry on panpsychism says this. Panpsychism got wiped out by the introduction of materialism in the 20th century. But up through the 19th century, panpsychism was the default view of thoughtful people all over the world, not everywhere, but it was the default view. And it was up through William James and Leibniz and Huxley and Alfred North Whitehead. And, it was the default view that, consciousness was ubiquitous. Whether you took a Neoplatonic view that it was primary or a dual aspect monism view or some other view that it was ubiquitous but not primary, it was clear. And then it got wiped out by this fully materialist thing. And the power of panpsychism is that it doesn't, while the materialists deny the panpsychics don't deny the material. Kreppel says, either way works. You can understand the world either way or both ways, but culturally it will flip from time to time. And if you read the Wikipedia entry on panpsychism, you'll see that in this period of time, panpsychism is experiencing a resurgence in contemplative practice and neurology, in psychedelics, absolutely, because it suddenly becomes available to millions of people who never had that experience before. Whatever we think of psychedelics, I don't use them myself. But the point is, it's become a new portal to experiences of the panpsychic. So, and then the Yoga Sutras, aside from my favorite sutras, the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, and especially looking at the cities. I mean, I always used to look at the cities and say, well, that's very nice. It must be some intrapsychic event that they experience, but it isn't real in the world. But according to Kreppel, it's real. There's a Yale professor who wrote a book about Mother Teresa and a friar named Joseph, who both used to fly in the presence of many, many people. His name is Eire, E-I-R-E. The book is called They Flew. So Kripal's point is that at different times in different cultures, different things are actually possible. And it depends on the time and the culture as to what expresses. And so that we don't know what that psychic force is and that is expressing itself in different cultures, in different ways, in the experience of different people, but it feels very real. And the reason I'm devoting my 81st and 82nd years to a series of 14 conversations with Jeffrey Kripal is I think this is the most important thing that's happening. So in that context, I regard integral yoga as a very well-designed, very safe, very grounded set of practices that come out of one of the oldest human religious traditions that is deeply grounded in a panpsychic view of the world. And I'll take, 4 sayings from, 3 from Swamiji and 1 from Buddhism. Swamiji's view that truth is one, paths are many. Well, I love to look at the world that way. I think it's a powerful way. It is a non-dual teaching. There are dual teachings. And there are also teachings. William James, for example, said, I cannot know if it is the one or the many. So I prefer to see it non-dually. But one of the important things about great truths is that the opposite of one great truth is usually not a lie or a fiction. It's another great truth. So the view, the non-dual view and the dual view are examples of 2 great truths that are held in tension. The second is the teacher as signpost. I really love that teaching because it really says you meet somebody, or perhaps in the course of your life, you meet a number of people and they show you the way, but they can't do the work. You have to do the work. And so you have to find some form of inner guidance. And the only inner guidance is some form of inner teacher or inner teachers, plural. So for me, Swamiji has remained an utterly central teacher for over 40 years. I just feel his presence all the time. He is available to me all the time. And I'm sure that's true for many of you. This is not, nor is it just people, and, think of all the people who have Christ in their heart, or Buddha in their heart, or Krishna in their heart. It's a common thing to carry a great teacher and a great teaching in your heart. So for me, Swamiji has stayed in my heart. He's very close to me. And so I find him, even as I confront the immense complexities of the cosmos. J.B.S. Haldane, the great evolutionary biologist, has a great line where he says, the universe is not only queerer than we think, it's queerer than we can think, right? And so I believe that. I believe that the universe, the cosmos, is queerer than we can think. But following Kripal, I believe that consciousness is the new sacred. And I believe that the study of consciousness is resurging with the study of panpsychism. So 3 more minutes with you. And I think the last point I'll make is the one about a life of dedication is the path to inner peace. And I'll just quote my friend and colleague, Rachel Naomi Remen, who some of you know. She has a lovely line where she says, perhaps the purpose of life is to grow in wisdom and learn to love better. Perhaps the purpose of life is to grow in wisdom and learn to love better. I love that because it has 4 key elements. The first is perhaps. You may not think life has a purpose. If you don't think life has a purpose, the whole thing is null and void. If you do think life has a purpose, perhaps it is to grow in wisdom and learn to love better. So I will leave you with that thought and with the question for you. You know, we live in such a profoundly transformative period of time. We live in the age of the global polycrisis, which I also study in depth. The world is changing with immense rapidity. Our country is changing. It is very easy to get caught up in fear and just a sense of hopelessness and despair. It's not productive. It's not the right way to go. You know, the Gita says that when darkness prevails, I take a body and walk among you again. When darkness prevails, I take a body and walk among you again. I believe that to be true. And I believe that we in integral yoga are elements of that body that is walking among us again. So if we can simply hold fast to whatever it is that we have found in integral yoga, whatever has stayed with us over the course of many years in integral yoga, or if we're new, whatever we have discovered freshly, if we stay with that, perhaps we can be part of that body of the Gita that finds a body when darkness prevails and walks among us again. I'm 1 minute short of my time, and I'll stop there. Thank you very much.